topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Well, it's not morning. Juan, I don't know how I always screw up. Too many shows and too many time zones. Good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. The first show was really a very special show for me because the expert has been, I guess, with us for about 7 years. And he actually became a friend, and he's just a good guy. I hate it's going to be on tax relief, but he is so good at it. And before he comes on, I just want to welcome everybody and thank you for all the texts that you send every week. We also have shows in Tampa, South Florida, Philadelphia, Atlanta. We're also in Houston and Dallas. We're so thankful for you. And before Barry comes on, he's here with us. Barry is the president and founder of Taxation Solutions, Inc. He's an enrolled agent, which we're going to talk about today. He's licensed to represent taxpayers before the Internal Revenue Service. And he is a longstanding member of the several tax industry professional organizations, including National Association of Enrolled Agents and the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers. Barry is just so good at what he does. And with his experience in tax and finance industry, it spans over 30 years. Now, when you see, if you're watching TV today and you see him, you're going to go, there's no way he's been doing this for 30 years. He looks a lot better than me, folks, let me tell you. So his expertise includes tax resolution, financial planning, tax return preparation, financial statements, and bookkeeping. He's been instrumental in helping hundreds of people resolve complex tax issues with the IRS. We've already gotten like 6 emails already because we start promoting the show a week out saying, we are so glad you're bringing on a tax expert. And one even went on to say, ask Barry about what do I do with these envelopes coming from the IRS. And we're going to talk about that today. So let me welcome you, my friend, Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions.
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. It's great to be here. I actually enjoy doing these shows with you on Ask the Experts. It's been a little while, but, getting back out here and getting the information to people is fantastic and helpful, whether they use us or use somebody else. That they need to be prepared for whatever they do in fighting the IRS.
Barry, one of the things I always loved about doing the show with you is every day you hear, I know you're not saying this, but I can. There's horror stories out there about these big national companies with these big national TV and radio ads of people that got no relief. And I understand you can't help 100% of everybody, but what I loved about you is, and you might have gotten some negative, but I have never heard one negative thing about your company, only positive.
Well, we make a difference in people's lives, and actually we've helped thousands of people solve IRS problems. And, the difference is when you're talking to us, we're trying to make sure that the program we're going to put you in fits what you qualify for. We don't want to just sell you on, hey, we're going to do an offering compromise because that's the easy thing and that's what you heard and that's what you want. Well, sometimes in life you don't get what you want, you get what you can actually qualify for. And that makes a difference when we're actually talking to people and saying, hey, you don't qualify because you have too much equity in your house or you have too much income. Whereas other people will just say, hey, I just want your money. It doesn't matter. And then they'll deal with it later. Good, bad, or indifferent. We want to be right. We want to take care of people. We want to make a difference in your life, not just sell you on something because we can or because you're scared of the IRS. So we want to tell you the truth, whether if I lose the sale or we don't get you as a client, we eventually get you back as a client because you realize that we were correct in what we were saying. That makes sense.
One of the things in the opening was I said that you do tax return preparation. If you haven't filed your taxes and the IRS will catch up to you, they don't look at because they don't know what your write-offs are. So you're paying gross amount. So you're going to, in order to pay less, a company like Barry's is going to help you with, you're going to have to recreate a financial or you're going to pay a lot more. Is that correct, Barry?
Oh, that is absolutely correct, because a lot of people get in trouble with the IRS because they are independent contractors. They get those 1099 NECs now. It used to be miscellaneous, non-employee compensation. And when the IRS does that return from you a few years later, they're not taking any of your expenses for your business. They're not going to give you any write-offs for your kids or for your family. They're going to do it in the best interest of the IRS, not the best interest of you.
Well, Barry, also people, and they're starting to hear a lot about it. I mean, we're hearing the IRS is hiring 80,000 new agents. You don't want to go up against them, because I heard an agent talking the other day. These people are not your buddies. They're not your friends. And by you trying to negotiate with them, Barry, they could say the wrong thing to them.
Oh, very definitely. That's when you hire us, the first thing we tell you is you're not allowed to talk to the IRS. Matter of fact, if the IRS calls you, you got one of our cards and you say, hey, no, I'm represented by Taxation Solutions Tax Relief. Here's their phone number, 877-996-6477. And you call them. We represent you. We are basically step into your shoes to represent, everything about you, to get you on the right plan, whether it's an offering compromise, whether it's an installment agreement, whether it's non-collectible status, whatever it happens to be that we can put you in, we're going to put you into the best one possible. But we don't want you talking to them, because
right.
You say one thing to the IRS and all of a sudden they take it as gospel, whether it was you understood the question, you answered it wrong, whether you answered it correctly, but it's not the way you needed to answer it with all the details behind it. They just run with it, and you don't want the IRS doing that.
It's funny. We just got our first text of the show, Barry. Now, if you'd like to ask Barry a question, you can also, if you're watching us on TV right now, to the right of the screen, you can make comments, and we will ask those questions to Barry. We've been promoting your show all week this week to text us their questions. And our very first question is, how does the IRS find you?
Well, we do get that, but they have their ways. They find things about people that you could never imagine. They find out. We represent some clients who didn't tell us the full truth of what assets they own, but the IRS was able to find every single thing they own. They will find you somewhere. They may not have a current address today, but remember, if you're working for somebody, you've given your address to get your W-2s correctly. If you're banking, your bank has your correct address. They can get it from any number of sources. They'll find out where you bank at to collect your money as well.
Right. Barry, you hear all the time about enrolled agents, and I guarantee you a lot of people don't even know what an enrolled agent is.
That is very true. I mean, most people think, CPAs or tax attorneys, but an enrolled agent actually is a very prestigious designation from the U.S. Department of Treasury. You don't get it simply. You have to pass a rigorous examination. You have to go through a background check, and then you got to meet lengthy continuing professional education requirements. And all of that is why EAs account for less than 10% of all tax practitioners out there. We are considered to be America's premier tax expert. We're a cut above the rest. And by using us enrolled agents to handle your taxes, your tax resolution, tax relief, you're going to be assured that you're going to get a superior level of tax expertise. So you can be confident that we're going to be very thorough, very insightful, know the rules in and out, what's going to happen within the IRS, and give you uncommon professionalism in this industry that makes a huge difference in getting representation against the IRS.
Tell me a little bit about what your company, Taxation Solutions, does.
Well, Taxation Solutions Tax Relief, we are a national company. We represent people in all states across the country. We're headquartered right here in Cypress, Texas, just northwest Houston. We provide, many financial services for taxpayers. And one of the biggest ones is dealing with tax-related IRS problems, whether it's an audit, whether it's filing back taxes, IRS liens, levies, wage garnishments, or anything that the IRS is claiming that you owe because they decide you owe it. Or, hey, maybe you didn't file. You do owe taxes because you couldn't afford it. We're going to help find a way to get you back in good standing with the IRS, either settle your tax problem with offering compromise, payment plan, non-collectible status. It could even be what we call a partial pay installment agreement where you're not paying the full amount, but you're going to pay less than what they owe. So, we have a lot of things available to us. We know how to get it through to the IRS, and we know how to work with them to get you the right solution that works best for you.
Barry, I think what's so great that you do is once someone secures your services, they no longer have to talk to the IRS. The IRS has to go through you.
Absolutely true. Matter of fact, if they start calling you and you tell them that, hey, you've got representation with us, they're not supposed to call you anymore. They're supposed to call us. And when they do, they actually are violating the law. And so the only time they have permission is if we're not being responsive to them or we're not answering their questions or their phone calls. But we're here. We've got great services, great people here on staff that will help you all the way through all these problems and confirm to you that, hey, we've got these guys under control. As long as you're answering our questions, as long as you're providing us information, we are going to be able to help you every step of the way. We just want you to avoid the IRS at all costs. And that's what we're here to help you do.
That's really funny what Barry just said, because, you hear all these national commercials and there's nothing ever said about, don't talk to the IRS after you have an agent, because you could get yourself and your mouth could get you in a lot of trouble without you even realizing it. So it is so important. And the money you think that you might be saving for negotiating it yourself, you're going to lose twice as much by not having someone like Barry represent you.
That is absolutely true. You just we've seen where People try to go in and represent themselves, and they end up paying more than what the payment plan we could have put them on. And it's just because of the way you answer the questions and everything. So, what we tell people is, hey, we want you to avoid the IRS. We want to help you from the beginning to the end. We want to get you the best solution, but I can't do it unless you actually pick up the phone and call us. You just got to dial that number, 877-996-6477. You see it right down at the bottom of the screen here. And go to our website and check us out at taxationsolutions.net. Remember, that's taxationsolutions.net. So if you get into there, and if you're in trouble with the IRS, pick up that phone and call us. And now let us get started.
Don't be embarrassed. This is what Barry does for a living. He's been doing it for a long time. You got to remember, everybody who comes to see Barry are in some trouble with the IRS. So you don't have to be embarrassed. Barry has seen so much of this happen. But the most important thing is that I am telling you, you do not want to get into a negotiation yourself with the IRS, because I'm going to tell you something. And Barry might not even be able to say this, but I can. You are going to lose as soon as you start talking to the IRS. I'm not saying avoid them. I'm saying call Barry up. He is going to be totally honest with you, what he can do and can't do. And just call him. Stop putting those envelopes into the drawer, right, Barry?
Oh, very definitely. And, a lot of people use that nice little circular file to throw them in and hope that, hey, they just went out with the trash, they'll go away. One of the big things that in my experience in dealing with the IRS is that they really hope that you're going to try to settle whatever they claim you owe yourself, because dealing with it yourself and the IRS dealing with you makes their job a lot easier. It's almost like going to a trial without a lawyer and hoping that you win a case.
Yes.
If you're the lawyer, you're the worst client you could ever have too. But, taxpayers got to understand that it's not the IRS's job to assist you. It's not their job to technically help you with your problem, with your debt. Their job is to collect money for the IRS. They are the largest collection agency in the world, really. And they're hiring more and more people to keep coming after you and your money. And that's what we're here to do, is protect you and your money.
Well, it's funny. We just got another text. This was someone who actually wrote us and said that we need to add a tax relief expert. And he says here in his text that I was the one that wrote you about getting a tax relief expert. I'm so glad. Great show today. My question is, you hear on TV all the time where somebody, he said, I'm using this as an example, owed $1 million to the IRS and they settled for $25. Please tell me that's not true.
Well, everybody's situation is different. Let's be clear about that before we go into it. But yes, there are settlements that we have gotten that have been, incredibly good, where we've settled things of $30,000 for 100, or 100,000 for 1,000, or, we took somebody that owed $1.5 million and got it down to $40,000.
Wow.
But everybody's situation is different, because you could have another person who owes $1 million can actually afford to pay it, and they're going to pay it. There's not going to be a way around that to prevent them from having to pay the money if they can afford to pay it.
Right.
But if your situation is such that you can't afford to pay, the IRS has programs, and we know how to work through every one of those programs with the IRS to get you the best deal and to get it settled for the lowest amount. We have a client who had over $700,000 of trust fund penalties assessed against them. We got every one of those penalties removed. And trust fund penalties are penalties they assess against a person who had responsibility of paying payroll taxes. So it's one of the hardest things to get rid of. And we got over $700,000. It was close to $800,000, and we got all of it removed from that person. So, we have ways to work within the IRS, and we have programs, and we use them to our best ability to represent you as the taxpayer that has the problem.
I guess the IRS realizes they're not going to pull the wool over your eyes like they would the taxpayer.
No, absolutely not. We've seen it all. The newer IRS agents that they're currently hiring are some of the hardest ones to work with because they have no clue what they're doing. So we have to go through and train their new people for them to actually get to the right solution, because the only thing they know, if they can find money, it's the IRS's, and we're not about to back down. Hey, if that's the way it's going to be, we don't back down from you. We will school you on exactly what needs to be done.
Barry, what is Tax Solutions? How do you differ from the other resolution companies?
Well, as I said here earlier in the show, is that, when you call us, we're going to actually give you the solution and tell you, hey, this is what we can do. If we exceed that, hey, that makes us even better. But that when you're talking with us and we're talking about doing a solution for you, we're going to be finding the best solution that you qualify for. We're not going to sit here and tell you, hey, definitely you can get a settlement on $200,000 tax debt, and we can settle it for $100, and you have a $500,000 house. It isn't going to happen. So we're going to walk through these things with you and talk to you about it and find the way to solve this problem in the best light. But again, the only way I can do that, we offer a free consultation. You have to pick up the phone and call us at 877-996-6477. Again, that's 877-996-6477. And let us get started and let us help you the best we can.
And Barry, please correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a friend in New Orleans, or your parents are in California that are struggling working with the IRS, you can turn them on to Barry. I mean, this is federal. So, Barry, you could work with somebody no matter where they live, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We have clients in every single state across the country. We have some offices we use across the country in almost every state that we use for representation with the IRS. So we're not limited by where people are at. We're only limited by you not making that phone call or making that referral. So that's the only thing that stops us, is people not calling us to get the help so that we can, put the plans in place. I took a vacation out in Hawaii. I have to admit this, and I never had a client in Hawaii. And while I was out there, we got 2 clients in Hawaii. It was a great tax write-off.
Good for them, though.
I was out there. We were having fun, but we did find some helpful people out there, and we got some great clients and great friends from Hawaii to solve their tax problems. So you can see if you have an IRS problem or even a state tax problem, we can help you all across the country. So if you got friends or family anywhere else, have them give us a call.
Barry, for those who are on TV, we've been scrolling your number the whole show. But for those, again, on radio, the phone number is 877-996-6477, taxationsolutions.net. Barry, this show still goes by faster than any show I have. Barry will be back again with us next month. We'll be talking about tax resolution. Barry, it's like we never stopped. So good to see you. And we'll see you again next month.
It's been great. I look forward to it. Again, just pick up the phone and give us a call if you have any questions. It's a free consultation. It's a free phone call. It's really simple. It's 877-996-6477. We'll take care of you. Just mention Ask the Experts, and they'll give you a special discount as well. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, buddy. That was Barry Fowler with Taxation Solutions. Folks, let me tell you, he's right there in Houston. And, it's not some company that you got to try to find out where they're located because they haven't called you back. Anyhow, I'm so glad we've got Barry as part of our show. We've got an incredible next expert. And we actually secured Barry, I guess, about 2 weeks ago. But our next guest, we actually secured about 6-7 months ago. And it's been funny. We've gotten letters going, and we get email all the time, people saying, why don't you get a person who does TMJ on your show? I didn't even know what TMJ was, to be honest with you. Basically, because I don't have it. But all of a sudden, we found that our expert in dental implants also does TMJ. And we are going to have him on our show in just a minute. We're waiting for his name is Dr. Mark Van Slate. And he has been doing our radio show for the last, like I said, 6, 7, 8 months. We've just recently went to TV, where we do TV, radio, and podcast. And like I said, we're just waiting for Mark to come on. There he is. Voila.
Now I can't hear.
Are you muted? Can you? Okay, let's see. Maybe unmute. Let's see if he can read that. Can you hear now?
I'm not seeing the audio.
Okay. Check your volume. Oh, let's see. Folks, this is live. See, this is what happens on a live show. Sometimes everything goes great. Let me see if I can get him to check his volume. Okay, can you hear now?
Okay. If I'm not getting any audio, what should I do?
Let's see. Check your volume. I'm hoping he reads this on the. I wondered if we should have him call in. Let's see if we can write him to call in on his phone by giving him the number. I don't know if he's actually seeing the chat line. I hate for there to be dead space. Okay, let's see if let's put the phone number up there.
Okay.
Can you hear now?
I had to put some micro or earphones in. Can you hear me?
We hear you fine, Mark.
Good.
Oh, I was just telling everybody that you've been our dental implant expert for 6, 7, 8 months. And when we went to TV, I get this. It's funny because when they said you're going to do TMJ today,
yeah,
we got someone who said, how come you don't get an expert in TMJ? I mean, it's amazing, but we have one
awesome
today.
Yeah, that's great.
Mark, first of all, tell everybody about your practice.
Well, my practice, I've been in practice now for about a little over 30 years in kind of west of the Galleria area. And just like any other thing, you start off as a general dentist doing little things, and then you like certain areas. And we've kind of really gravitated to things that we love doing. And one of those is TMJ, and we do just about everything else too.
And I want people to know that we also have you as our expert in sleep apnea too.
Sure. Yeah, we've done a few segments with sleep apnea, and we do a lot of that in our practice.
Well, I got to tell you that our next show next month, you got to talk on dental implants. I'm going to tell you the reason why. I've gotten 8 since we announced the new show on TV, I've gotten 8 emails from people in the Houston area, and I guess Galveston is the Houston area, who want to know about dental implants. So maybe we can do dental implants next time.
Yeah, we'll do that next time for sure.
That will be great.
Be happy to.
So, Mark, how do you know?
And you can call me John, by the way.
Why am I saying Mark?
Well, Mark is my middle name, and I get that a lot. But John, I go by John for sure.
And it's Jon, not John.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Dr. Van Slate, let's talk about TMJ. It has to do with the jaws.
Sure.
And I understand it's very painful.
It can be. Yes, it can.
So how does a person know they have this?
Well, I guess the best way to talk about this is the jaw joint is just this little joint right in front of our ear. And TMJ is short for temporomandibular joint, but that's what we call that. And it's interesting because you can actually feel the joint. If you put your finger right in front of your ear and you open, you can feel the joint moving forward. And as you close, you can feel it moving back. But the unique thing about this joint is that it's people that have TMJ, it's a very self-diagnosable condition, because in general, people are going to have soreness in their face and in front of their ear. They're going to carry, headaches and just in general have pops and clicks that they can actually audibly hear. But I guess the big thing with TMJ that we see a lot of is that you're going to have a lot of tension headaches that are frequent. You'll have migraines. You can have, because the joint's in front of the ear, you can have earaches, ringing in the ear, a stuffy ear feeling. These people go to ENTs and they go in there and say, hey, nothing's wrong with your ear. It must be a TMJ problem. And of course, the pops and clicks, but people in general just carry a lot of fatigue in their neck and their shoulders, and it can be really severe at times.
What about posture? Does that contribute also?
Well, posture is a big deal and a really big thing that's overlooked with TMJ issues, because when you talk about posture, you think of it like this. If you look on the side, our ear canal should line up with our shoulder. And then if you draw a line through our hips down to our ankle, if our ears are in front of that line, that's forward head posture. And you can imagine if our head is like a bowling ball sitting on top of the head here, that's like a 10-pound ball. For every inch we move forward, it's creating like 10 to 15 pounds per square inch of pressure that puts a lot of strain on the neck and the back and the muscles that support the TMJ joint. So you really cannot resolve a TMJ pain if the posture's wrong. And the weird thing is, we're living at a time where everybody's, having their head down, looking at cell phones and computers.
Yes.
It's just amazing how we're seeing more TMJ issues than we ever have before. So posture's a big deal.
John, I have to do this. Sometimes as a host, I've been doing this for 10 years. You don't know if you should bring this up or not, but we're talking TMJ today. But one of your patients, Robert, said, I tuned you in. You did my dental implants 2 years ago, and it was the best experience of my life. I had to put that in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I knew what Robert that was. That's great.
Yeah, you know what? You never know who's watching.
That's right. That's exactly right.
We're not talking about dental implants, but one of your patients that you did work on. And what a great compliment, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to hear the positive things for sure.
Yes. So what causes a jaw to make that popping, that clicking noise, like when you open or close your mouth?
Yeah, well, I guess the best way to start that off is just really, we got to talk about joints in general. No joints like compression. They all want room to move around. They want to be decompressed. When they compress, you feel the ligaments, the muscles, the tendons, the blood vessels, they all compress, and that causes inflammation and jaw pain. When we're talking about jaw specifically, you can have acute pain or chronic pain. Acute pain really comes like an accident, like somebody has a sports injury or a car wreck. But it's the chronic pain that we're really most worried about with TMJ, because the acute phases you can heal. But the chronic things, those are things that we're doing that we might have a habit, or it might be something that we're doing routinely that causes the compression, mostly like clenching or grinding your teeth. If you clench and grind, it can be developmental, which means that some people's upper jaw just is not developed properly. or widely enough to accommodate the lower jaw, and it gets constricted. Certainly allergies are a big part. Arthritis can play a big part. And then the posture we talked about. But I think when you think about the clenching and grinding, that is probably the thing that is most talked about that causes TMJ problems. And I do believe that's probably true. But clenching and grinding are two incredibly different things, Steve. And when you think about this, clenchers usually are those people that have stress and anxiety. And as a result, what they do is they just keep their teeth together a lot with tension. They can have perfect looking teeth, but they just have their teeth together a lot. People that have that are grinders, you got to think of muscle now. Okay. Muscles want to have a resting length. And if you think of a muscle being calm in this area, their resting length, they don't want to be stretched and they don't want to be foreshortened, because that causes tension, trismus, spasms, pain, and all that kind of stuff in the muscle. So the brain's going to send if we put our teeth together, and putting our teeth together in a habitual manner causes foreshortening of our muscles, then our brain's going to send a signal. It's going to say, hey, we don't like that position. So what we got to do is we got to move our jaw to find that position, causing grinding. Okay. So that's a big deal. But as far as the pops and clicks, I think I'm going to affectionately bring up Frankie, that this is something that my assistant has named, Lita. This is Frankie to my patients. But what I'm going to do is, if you can kind of see this is a TMJ joint. Okay.
Okay.
And on what causes the pops or clicks, you can imagine right on the top here, we have a fossa that is the upper jaw that doesn't move. And then we have the lower jaw, which is the condyle that does move. On top of that lower jaw, we're going to have something called an articular disc that serves as a cushion between the jaws. And if we have a lot of compression right here, the disc cannot sit on top of the lower jaw. And as a result, it'll sometimes fall forward in this area. So when the disc falls up here, we hear it click off or click back on the joint. And so as we open, we'll sometimes see the disc click on. And as we close, it'll click back off. And so if that makes sense, that's really in a nutshell how that works. Yeah. So that's what causes that sound. It's interesting, isn't it?
Well, I mean, speaking of assistants, I got to say this. You have the best assistant in Sherry.
She runs my office, and Sherry is great. She's been with me for 30 years, if you can believe that. We've got a long history together, and she is awesome.
She's like your agent. She gets so excited when she talks about your practice.
Yeah, she's more excited than I am. She really loves it.
Yeah, she is really good. Last night, we did a show in Atlanta on tongue thrust.
Sure.
And it kind of sounds like what we were talking about last night. Do you deal in that also?
Absolutely. And I want to tell you, that is a really commonly overlooked thing with this whole thing. When we're talking about tongues, this is really important. We should breathe with our lips together,
right,
with our tongue in the roof of our mouth, and comfortably breathing through our nose. So if somebody has allergies, let's say, and they have sinus issues or turbinate issues or a deviated septum, they can't breathe through their nose, well, they become mouth breathers, Steve. And so they're going to breathe like this, like that. And so when that happens, our tongue's not in the right spot. We don't breathe through our nose properly. And as a result, the muscles that have to, that have to support that open mouth breathing cause a lot of strain and stress to the jaw joint. So yeah, tongue thrusting and mouth breathing are a huge deal that have to be talked about when we're trying to solve TMJ issues.
And that's really what we're doing here. This is not an info commercial. What we're doing here is educating you with one of the finest dentists in the city of Houston. And it's kind of funny because we never know who gets our email blast of who's going to be on each week. And Dr. Van Slate will be with us again next month. But we had a dentist that called us up and said, I would like to be your expert in dental and cosmetic dentistry. And we said, well, we already have somebody. And he said, who do you have? And we said, Dr. Van Slate. He said, I know him. Yeah, he's good. Now, usually they'll start putting their competitor down. But
yeah.
He said, okay, he's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's nice when people in your industry recognize you and, not come with the comments. I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's wonderful. For those of you who are watching on TV, we have got the number we're scrolling. Um, John, give everybody your phone number, the ones who are listening on radio right now.
Sure. It is 281-886-3164. And that's 281-886-3164. And you can call us there and we'd be happy to talk with anybody.
Now we understand now what causes jaw pain.
Sure.
What do you do for it?
Well, I will tell you this, Steve, there's a big paradigm shift in the way we've treated TMJ issues from the common. When we were in school, what we were basically taught to do is take an impression, make a conventional bite guard, and then wear it at night. And the issue that I've always had with that when we did it is that when we make a bite guard, well, we don't know if the muscles like that position. We don't know if the joint likes that position. And, a lot of times people would get worse as a result from that. So, what we're advocating now and what we realize is that to heal a joint, you have to keep it decompressed. So if you think about it, if you put something in your mouth and just tell somebody to wear it just at night, well, what happens the other 16 hours of the day when they're not having anything in there to basically keep the jaw decompressed or to help it? So what we're advocating now is actually a daytime and a nighttime appliance that people wear to keep the joint decompressed pretty much well all the time if you want to have any chance at getting some type of healing to the joint. So that's a big paradigm shift in the way we're treating things.
You're probably going to understand this question. Somebody just wrote, do you do teeth in a day?
Well, listen, teeth in a day, that's an implant question. So
yes,
that teeth in a day, I don't personally do that in my practice, but I'm very absolutely know what that means in great detail. But that's kind of a specialty implant issue that's about.
Okay. You never know what kind of questions we're going to get on this show. How often are you recommending that, with this appliance that they wear? Is it something you would wear every night?
Yeah. Well, again, Steve, when we were just talking about that, what we're finding is that you need to wear it more than you think. Okay. So when I make an appliance for somebody, I'll tell them, I said, you've got to mentally be prepared because everybody's different. Everybody is, it's not one size fit all. It really depends on the pain somebody's having and how much deterioration or problems they have in their jaw joint. There are people that can wear an appliance for a while. And I always go and tell people, I said, look, you might have to wear these appliances for years, maybe a lifetime. There are those, though, that can be weaned off over time, and they don't have to have these things on all the time. There's also, we call it a phase 2 treatment, where people always ask, well, look, I don't want to wear these appliances anymore. What are my options? Well, there are orthodontic options. And for those people that have really worn their teeth down a lot, sometimes we do something called full mouth rehabilitation, where sometimes we've got to put crowns and even veneers on all of their teeth to build back the proper position where they're not causing that compression in the jaw joint. But that's kind of what we're doing.
Dr. Van Slate, we tell people there's so many different areas of dentistry today. I mean, the list
there are.
Tell us what you do in your practice, all the different areas of dentistry.
Right. Well, it's kind of funny. I mean, I've been doing dentistry now for a little over 30 years, and I kid people and I say I've done it all, because I've done everything from regular orthodontics to like placing implants, and we've done so many things. But I think in general, I'm a general practitioner. And I am doing a lot of TMJ, a lot of sleep dentistry. We are doing Invisalign, which is now the invisible braces that people have, and then just everything else that you can imagine that a general dentist would do, and as far as root canals and making dentures and fillings and everything else. But I just enjoy doing what I'm doing and just trying to help anybody that I can. Yeah.
You can after 30 years and you still have that excitement in your voice.
Sure. Yeah, you have to be.
That's pretty amazing. So I'm going to ask you I want you to be totally honest with us. Why should I come to you and not somebody else?
Well, that's the golden question, isn't it?
Yes.
This is what I say is that, you know what, when people come in, we just do the best we can, treat them right, give them the best information, the best knowledge we have. And we hope that it's good for people. I will never, ever persuade anybody to go anywhere. I think it's a personal decision for most people, but what we can say in our practice is usually when people come to us, they like us and they want to stay with us because we usually do our best to help people. And like I said, I have a great staff, and I've got to send props to my two hygienists, Kristen and Josh. They're phenomenal. And then I love my assistants, Lita, who's been with me for about 17 or 18 years. And then
Wow.
Laura. Yeah. And then Sherry, like we talked about, has been with me for 30 years. And Denise, who actually went to high school with. I mean, it's really a great group, and we have a nice cohesive group that gets along great. So we have a nice warm atmosphere that people, I think, will gravitate to and enjoy.
Are you from Houston?
I am from. I went to high school here, went to grade school here, but yeah, pretty much my whole life I've been in Houston. So
wow,
through and through Houstonian.
Let me go back. What happens to people when they're, I guess you would call their jaws lock and they can barely open them?
Sure. Well, you know what? If your jaws lock, you got to see somebody immediately, hopefully me. Okay.
Yes.
But when your jaws are locking, it's like a timetable. The best chance of unlocking that jaw are sooner, not later. So when somebody comes to my office and let's say we call it a closed lock where they just can't open wide, we immediately are going to put them on what's called a TENS unit to relax the head and neck muscles. We use an ultrasound to try to get deep tissue massage. We use moist heat just to kind of get the inflammation down. And then what we do is we literally can manipulate the jaw to try to get that little disc we were talking about back in the right place. And then once that happens, we can make like a little temporary appliance they wear until we can make the orthotic that we were talking about previously. Okay. And when we do those things, we can normally help people, but time is really a factor there. And usually before somebody gets to that point, they're going to have really definite popping and clicking in their joint. They might notice that it's closed or locked before, but the critical part is, man, you really want to be seen sooner than later.
This is nothing that you want to wait and see if it gets better.
No, that's at that point you need help. You don't want to, because what will happen is that if it goes on for a long period of time, if the jaw stays locked, well, you get scar tissue in the joint that can cause something called a pseudodisc, and it means that you may not be able to ever open real wide again. So you really want to get that taken care of. And
John,
as far as
we've gotten several questions, people wanting to know about insurance, what it covers when it comes to TMJ.
Sure.
Is there an insurance that covers that?
You know what? This is what I'll say about insurance. Insurances right now for everybody in dentistry are a big question mark. There's hundreds of insurances now, and they all cover different things. Some insurances do, some don't. The best that I can tell people is that we just have to file and see. But in general, for most people, insurance does not cover TMJ issues. Unfortunately, I wish it did. And in my opinion, it should. I think it's ridiculous that insurance don't cover things like this for people, because it is absolutely an essential part of treating people. It's very common as well. So hopefully that'll change over time.
Well, I know with Medicare now that they are actually starting to cover more things in dentistry. Mm-hmm. In fact, I just got looks like a credit card that's worth $3,000, and I can use the whole thing on dental if I want.
Yeah, that's great.
I've never seen those before, and they're even including implants.
Sure. Well, if somebody has specific questions on this, I would just recommend anybody to call my office and talk with Sherry or Denise. And they're experts in this, and they can really answer those kind of questions to figure out more about what works for people.
Let's tell everybody, where is your office at?
Well, we are located in the Tanglewood Professional Building. It's on Augusta Drive between San Felipe and Woodway, kind of west of the Galleria. And we're in a nice 2-story professional building. We've been there for, probably about 30 years now. So it's a really nice building, and it's pretty convenient for, centrally located people.
You know, it's funny is it's a small world. I'm from Texas, lived in Houston for a long time, and I lived right by your office.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was at Westheimer. There was I forgot the big food store now. Is it starts with an R? What's your big grocery store there?
Oh gosh, well the biggest one to us, there's a Randall's. Is that what you're talking
Randall's.
about? Randall's, yeah.
And
That's
there was a
closed. That's not there
Randall's.
anymore.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
Yeah, they moved.
But I know that's a great, I mean, you've got great access. Your office is going to be easy to find.
It is. Yeah,
But-
it's easy access.
So, people, I'm telling you, what we do on the show is we do the legwork for you. The thing I hate, John, hearing is someone chose the dentist by their website.
Yeah.
And, you know, it used to be yellow pages. If you had a full page ad,
Sure.
that means you were supposed to be really good. It doesn't work that way. And that's why we try to find the best of the best, like we have with John. And John's with us every month. I hope next time we can talk about dental implants. But John got started with us with sleep apnea, so we got to do that also, John.
We'll need to do another show on that. I think that a lot of people enjoyed that, and there was a lot of good information that people didn't know.
Well, you're going to like doing with me because I have sleep apnea, and I'm on a.
No wonder you want to hear it then.
Yeah. Well, I know what people go through.
Sure.
And, you know, I got to tell you, when you wear a mask, it's the most uncomfortable thing to do when you're sleeping.
Sure.
And I don't think people know, John, how dangerous sleep apnea is.
Oh, my gosh. It's, you know, sleep apnea is one of those silent killers that people don't take seriously. And bottom line is it's usually a spouse or something that's going to talk about it because they're going to hear somebody not breathing at night. But if that's the case, you know, all those years where we hear people dying peacefully at night, I mean, it was sleep apnea. That's what's happening.
Because you literally stop breathing.
You literally stop breathing. Yeah. Apnea is defined as 10 seconds without breathing. You know, you're going, and if somebody does that, you know, hundreds of times a night, I mean, you can imagine you're just not taking in oxygen and it's not good for your organs. So it's incredibly serious and should be taken seriously.
Yes. And for those of you that snore, I got to tell you, snoring can break up a relationship real fast.
I have more spouses come to me and tell me thank you than anything else because now they can sleep in the same room together.
I know. And a lot of people are embarrassed, which you shouldn't be. And a lot of people say, I don't snore. Well, you're sleeping. Of course you don't think you snore, but your snore is actually what's waking you up, isn't it, John?
Sure. Absolutely.
So we're going to do a show on sleep apnea and stop snoring. We're just going to cover everything. John, let's give everybody the phone number one more time.
Okay. The phone number is 281-886-3164. That's 281-886-3164.
And I got to just add my 2 cents in. I've been doing these shows for 10 years now. And I got to tell you, when you find somebody who's been in practice for 30 years and you can still hear the excitement in their voice, that's the real deal, John.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
So Dr. Van Slate, he will be back with us again next month. If we missed your question today, write us back. We'll send them over to Dr. Van Slate, and he will be back with us again next month on the Ask the Expert show. And we'll be back with you next week with more experts. And it looks like, because the show is becoming so popular, we're going to be adding another hour to the show. So it's going to be a 2-hour show, and we're still probably going to need more. John, thank you. It was great doing the show with you.
Steve, enjoyed it as usual.
Okay,
have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you. So listen, join us again next week. We come on at 1 o'clock to about 1:55, and we are loving the response that we're getting from the Houston area. Juan, our producer, thank you so much. You always do such a great job. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Stay blessed.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.